Level 1. Hang around. You're nobody yet. You're standing in front of the door but can't get in, not just physically, but in every sense. You sit in the corner of the garage, carry coffee, clean motorcycles, your hands callousing from oily rags. Nobody asks your name. Nobody looks at your face. Nobody says welcome. They act as if you don't exist yet. They're watching your every move. You've already grasped Hell's Angels' first rule instinctively. No asking, only listening. This goes on for weeks, sometimes months. You arrive early in the morning, leave late at night. Every now and then, someone orders you to do something. Take that motorcycle outside, carry that box to the storage, and you do it without protest. Because here, protesting means giving up on existing. Your eyes record everything. Who looks at whom and how. Whose entrance brings every conversation to a halt. Whose name is mentioned in silence and how that silence grows heavier in the room. There's a hierarchy here, invisible, yet real enough to touch. And you stand at the very bottom of that hierarchy, nearly at floor level. Pride? You left that feeling at the door when you walked in. One night, an old man with yellowed teeth and a worn leather jacket draped over his shoulders turned to you. He didn't even look at your face. He just spoke. Come tomorrow. 2 words. But you could feel the weight of those 2 words as if something inside you already knew what they meant. And walking home that night, for the first time in months, you slept soundly. Level 2 prospect. Now there's a patch on the back of your jacket, but that patch isn't freedom. It's a promissory note you've signed. As a prospect, you do the club's heaviest, dirtiest, most unquestionable work. The phone rings at 3 inches the morning. There's a package at this address. Pick it up and bring it. You don't ask what's inside, because asking questions isn't your right. Not yet. If someone says, take this man there, you take him. The man doesn't say a word the whole way, and neither do you. If someone says, spend the night in the garage, you spend it laying a blanket on the concrete floor, among the motorcycles, in the cold. In the morning, nobody thanks you. They shouldn't. This isn't a favor, it's a test. What happens if you refuse? You can never approach the door again. And in this world, going back is far more dangerous than the first step, because now you know things. You've seen things. The harshest truth of the prospect period is this. They're not testing you, they're breaking you. They're tearing your ego apart piece by piece. They push your limits, blur your moral lines. Every time you can't say no, a door inside you closes a little more, and you can feel that the last door you've left open will close sooner or later. But you can't stop. Because once you've entered this world, the outside doesn't look the same anymore. Ordinary people's ordinary lives seem meaningless, colorless, empty to you. A friend of yours broke down during this period. You saw him crying one night, behind the garage, hunched over so nobody would see. You wanted to touch his shoulder for a moment. You wanted to be human, but you made no sound and walked away. Because you're still standing. And in this world, staying standing sometimes requires watching someone else fall. Level 3 full patch member. When the oath night came, nobody warned you it would be this heavy. In the back room, under dim light, the old man's hands, without trembling, sewed the 3 patches onto the back of your jacket top rocker, bottom rocker, the winged death angel in the middle. They shook your hand, looked you in the eyes. Nobody smiled. This wasn't a celebration. It was a contract. And what was written in the fine print of that contract, you only understand now, years later. Now you're a member, a genuine inhabitant of Hell's Angels' 1% world. That 1% symbol isn't without reason. When the American Motorcyclist Association declared in the 1960s that 99% of motorcyclists were law-abiding citizens, this club sewed on that patch. We are that remaining one. And now, you are that one. The club officially identifies itself as a motorcycle club on paper, in court documents, in press releases. But you know from the inside that this is a vertically integrated criminal organization, each layer insulated from the others. Every piece of information shared on a need-to-know basis. Drug distribution is never direct. You think you're transporting goods to a shipping company. That company is part of another logistics network. That network is just one link in a chain stretching from Oakland to Hamburg, from Hamburg to Sydney. Money is being laundered through tattoo studios, junkyards, auto parts shops. The books look clean, the hands are dirty. The accountant smiles, the prosecutor closes the file. And now you're turning inside that system. An invisible gear. Sometimes at night you think, exactly where in this system am I? And as the answer comes, you stop asking the question. Level 4 Sergeant at Arms. You know where the weapons are, which ones are registered, which are unregistered, which never existed at all. This rank wasn't given to you, you earned it. Or perhaps more accurately, you survived, so you were chosen. You are the club's discipline mechanism. When someone crosses the line, when someone talks too much, when someone leaks information to the outside, they call you. You walk through the door, everyone makes way for you. This isn't respect. It's distance. People fear you, and you feel this, with that cold awareness settling a little more each day in a corner of your stomach. This rank is not power, it's burden. Some nights you see those faces, the faces of the men you were forced to hold accountable. That man was someone's brother, someone's father, someone's closest friend once. But the club's code is clear and doesn't bend. Blood ties cannot come before patch ties. One night, you learned that a man you'd known since your prospect days had betrayed the club. He'd talked to the police how much. What he said, nobody knows. Maybe it was just suspicion, no concrete evidence. But as Sergeant-at-Arms, in this world, suspicion is enough for conviction. What you did that night, we won't write here. Let's just say, nobody saw that man again, and since that night, you never walk looking in that direction. Sometimes you look in the mirror and try to find that man, the one from the prospect days, the one who still believed in something. You can't find him, and this has moved beyond making you sad. It's simply become a fact now. Level 5 President. That part of the city is yours now. Not just the streets, the relationships, the deals, the fears. Every decision of your chapter goes through you. Who comes in, who goes out, what business is done, what territory is defended, what dispute is resolved at the table, which one is resolved under it. But real power isn't as bright as it looks from the outside. Not even close. Every morning, the first thing you do is check your phone. Did something happen overnight? If the police raided, if an agent was detected inside, if a rival club pressed against the border, you get the first word, and you carry the weight of that word alone. You sit at the head of the table at chapter meetings, but that seat is not a throne. It's a target. Everyone looks at you, and you can see the weight on everyone's shoulders. You make decisions sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly, but always definitively, because the moment a president shows indecision, the ground beneath that chair begins to hollow out. Have you ever researched how many Hells Angels chapter presidents died of natural causes? Very few. In 1,984 inches Canada, the president of the Laval chapter was killed by a bomb planted in his car. Another was shot on courthouse steps in broad daylight, before the eyes of witnesses. Every morning before you get in your car, you crouch down and check underneath first. This is no longer paranoia. It's the reflex of a man who has learned to survive in this position. And you don't even remember when you developed that reflex. You only know it's there every single day. One night, very late, you looked at a childhood photo of your daughter. It was sitting on the desk in her school uniform, smiling with a missing tooth. And in that moment you realized you had long ago stopped counting how many school events you'd missed. Level 6, Nomad, National Officer. You're no longer tied to a single city, a single chapter, a single identity. The Nomad patch seems like a symbol of freedom, someone who knows no borders, has no roots, moves with the wind. But in reality, this patch marks you as someone given the most dangerous assignments. Nomads carry out sensitive transfers between chapters, information, cash, sometimes other things. You're not a member of any chapter, so you're not the natural focal point of any investigation either. On paper, you're nearly invisible. You know no borders, you coordinate with European chapters, make contact with structures in Australia, quietly oversee supply lines in South America. You spend 1 week in Dusseldorf, the next in Auckland, the one after in Montreal. A different name in each city, a different story, but the same jacket. At this level, you see Hells Angels' true global network in all its complexity. More than 500 chapters in over 60 countries. And within this network, you can move for years without appearing in Interpol files because everything is behind the mask of culture. Everything is framed as motorcycle brotherhood. States pursue you, but you're always one step ahead because you manage not the institution, but the flow. But being a nomad has its price too. You have no place anymore in the truest sense. You don't belong to a city, you don't belong to a table. You wake up in a different bed each night, for a moment unable to tell where you are. And in those few seconds of blankness, you miss something very old, something you can't even quite name. The statistics are merciless and unchanging. More than 60% of Hells Angels members either receive long prison sentences, meet an early and violent death, or change their identity and enter witness protection. 3 options, and none of them is the ending that man carrying coffee in the corner of the garage ever imagined. You entered this story believing in something. There was freedom in that belief, real, tangible, rule-free freedom. There was brotherhood people who would be standing there when you turned your back. There was power a way out of the suffocating trap of ordinary life. And none of these three were entirely lies. For a time they were real, but each one, with time, transformed into something else. Freedom became conditionality, brotherhood became a ledger book, and power became a fragile position that required constant defending. Now your lawyer's number is saved first in your phone. Looking at your child's school photo, you notice your hands trembling slightly, and you know exactly where that trembling comes from. Outside it's raining, the street is wet and empty. You look through the window, and you see one thing clearly. The man who set out on this journey, and the man now seeing his reflection in the glass, are not the same person. One made choices, each small, each seemingly rational, each beginning with just one last time, and those choices, accumulating silently, brought you here. The most dangerous chains are the ones you put on believing they are freedom.